The AI Deal of Trust is a unique, fair opportunity to empower young generation about trust technology and AI opportunity. In the first chapter of this series, the AI Deal of Trust, we invite female leaders with exponential AI experience dedicated to one of the most crucial area of AI ethics and trust technology. Our exponential guest today is Dr. Anima Anandkumar, a brain professor at Caltech and a director of machine learning research at Nvidia. She was recognized by her peers with more than 20 awards, from Young Investigator for the Air Force and Army Research Offices to Good Tech 2018 by New York Times. She is one of the youngest female AI researchers in Silicon Valley with great faculty fellowship from great tech companies as Microsoft, Facebook, Google, and more. And she is a Best Paper Awards for many times. Please help me welcome Dr. Anima Anandkumar. Hi, Anima.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, Dr. Lobna. It's my pleasure to be here.
And we are happy to have this nice background that give us all the power of the all this blue space. So we are really lucky to have you today with us and honored. Thank you for joining this great common discussion about the AI Deal of Trust with the AI Exponential Thinker. So as I said before, during these discussions, we will learn more about your great AI experience, AI researches, your social involvement for AI ethics and diversity. But before going on that, we are more curious to know your academic background and how you end up in these incredible positions, either as principal scientist at Amazon Web Services, but also recently, these last couple of years, as a director of machine learning at Nvidia.
Yeah, I mean, I've been incredibly lucky to have so many mentors and supporters along the way, right? I think that's very important in anyone's career to have. And also lucky to be living in this current times where AI has taken off. There's endless opportunities and possibilities to see the research go from foundations and theory to the real world, right? It's happened so fast. And when I got into the field, I didn't have an idea that it would be this fast, right? What I've always kind of, the way I've chosen topics or the way I have chosen my path is one of curiosity, one of where there are challenging problems. I'm going and looking for instances where, there are uncharted territories, right? Because research is always about finding something new.
Yes.
And when I got into the field more than a decade ago, AI was, not in anyone's radar. I mean, it was certainly there in the academic community, but there were so many aspects we still needed to figure out, right? We needed to figure out how to make algorithms efficient, how to scale them up, what's the right compute infrastructure for that, and where is the data to train that. And now all that has come through and all that is synergized and energized to make an impact on this world. That's been an exciting journey.
One of the questions that it comes to my mind, was it a dream to work in AI?
I wanted to be a scientist always growing up. I loved math, I loved sciences, I loved engineering. Both my parents are engineers and they run an industry back in India. So I was growing up visiting, the manufacturing plant, looking at all these big machines. And in fact, they were one of the first in the city to modernize and bring automated manufacturing, what we call computerized numerically controlled machines or CNC machines. So I got introduced to programming through this non-traditional route, seeing how to control these huge machines and have really precise, micron level manufacturing requirements. To see that being done to me, it made me realize the power of programming and also the power of automation. So at that point, I AI was not in the broader picture, right? But I knew I wanted to do something of the sort that would combine science, math, and engineering and go towards more automation and more impact on this world. So.
Uh, the next topic, it will be more about your exponential academic involvement. So leading AI research for the best company in Silicon Valley is a part of your roles. We are impressed by your passion about teaching and academic research, since you are a brain professor and co-director of you name it Dulcet, and in the Department of Computing and Mathematical Science in the California Institute of Technology. I try to be fair, that's why I say every detail. For our audience, we are really curious to learn about your research laboratory and what are the main projects, for sure non-confidential one, that you can share with us.
Yeah, I mean, at Caltech, I feel like a kid in the candy store, right? Literally, there's so many problems to work on and so many of the world's experts in domains across the sciences and engineering. So having that wealth of expertise, makes me so energized and inspired, right? We have Nobel Prize winners, we have MacArthur Genius Award winners, and I have the privilege to collaborate with them, have their mentorship, have them as my role models, and so many amazing women as well who have made such strides, like Dr. Frances Arnold, who is the first female Nobel Prize winner at Caltech, and she won the prize in 2018. We have, across the board, so many such amazing women at Caltech, and men, of course. So that gives me the inspiration to think about, how AI can make an impact in all these areas, right? Aspects of biology, like how do we synthesize better proteins? How do we discover better drugs? Of course, now with the pandemic that's, upended lives, this is so important, right? Our ability to quickly develop new drugs and vaccines and keep up with virus mutations. You read about this every day in the news. And so it needs to now go to another regime of the pace of development. We can no longer afford to take decades to study a disease and take time to figure out what the drug is. We are in a fast evolving and fast changing world. So that's one area where, I've been collaborating to think about fast methods for drug discovery, like how we can go to the foundations of calculating quantum properties at the quantum level, properties of molecules, right? Like its energy and energy of various bonds, being able to predict how the binding happens. And that's really crucial to discover drug molecules. Wow. And one of our recent projects has been to use AI to speed this up almost 1,000 times compared to traditional methods. And so that shows the power of AI, where if we can now do fast computations, we can search this vast space of possible drugs, then we can quickly get them to market and save lives, right? So that's one example that to me is incredibly, has the potential for impact. And we are building from the foundations of Caltech to scaling them up to these real world scenarios. And that's just one example, so many other areas of sciences. In seismology, Caltech has wealth of data and expertise, and asking how we can predict earthquakes and, of course, right, have that early warning system that's so important. So again, the use of machine learning, the understanding of what kind of properties we have in the physical system, on the earth, how these forces move, combining that with machine learning, again, shows so much promise to do better prediction. And so many such examples there are at Caltech. So that's where we are bringing them together in an umbrella called AI for Science. I co-founded this with Professor Isong Yu, who's my colleague at Caltech. And the goal is, how can we synergize our efforts to have the impact of AI in all areas of sciences, right? How do we identify which problems are ready to be disrupted by AI? How do we ensure there are the right data pipelines, there's the right benchmarks? How do we bring all that together and bring people together to combine domain expertise with AI? So that's, I feel like I found my life's calling through that.
You know, Anima, we invite many prestigious guests in many podcasts in AI Exponential Thinker, and we observe when people are so passionate about AI, we feel it, you know, and we remark that people coming from research or even staying in research but combining to corporate world, they keep this passion, and you know, they enhance these passions, and we feel it, and it's very inspiring from young people to see that AI is not only about data, it's about solution, and there is more than data. So it's really something that is so powerful, and we just start unlocking just let's say less than 20% of the power of this technology, right?
We have barely scratched the surface, right? And finally, AI is about people, right? Ultimately, it is
every single day I say this.
It's for the people, right? And we want to ensure we derive the best benefits for humanity while ensuring it's trustworthy, and we minimize the dangers coming out of that. I mean, that balance is important for any technology, including AI.
You said the right word. AI is about people. In many aspects, in the aspect that it's trying to understand how we work and how we do things, right? To help us do better and do fast and improve. But at the same time, the user are people. So in both sides and in other apps aspect as well, we need to care about people every single moment. And this is why we will talk about AI ethics later as well in this discussion. So from an like you are an AI professor, and from this perspective, what are the main models that tech future leaders should learn, and how you engage your student to be innovative and creative? And I know that you are working too long times in this aspect.
Yeah, absolutely, Lobna. Like, the young people are our future, right? Bringing the young generation also into this area and showing them, the way it has touched my soul, the way it has, keeps me going. I want to convey that and get them also into that feeling, because once they understand this potential, and once they're able to see the path that's in front of them, right? They take it forward. That's what we all aim to do, right? And that's what you're also doing with exponential thinking. And the idea is to make sure that we reach out to young people and get them on a path of success. And at Caltech, this is something that we care a lot about. It's a small place, compared to other universities. We are small, but the benefit of that is it's also very well knit, and and there are no barriers in terms of areas, right? I mean, we are collaborating so openly across such wide ranging areas, and we all have this common language of being able to speak in mathematical terms, being able to lay out the foundation. And so that way we can bridge gaps across different areas. And the other important,
you make mathematics, let's say, more understood as a power, right? Because when like I remember myself when I was students, when I was passionate about mathematics, but at the same time, when I see my colleagues and my friends, mathematics is so abstract for them, so they cannot understand why we do mathematics. And I think what you are explaining is that you show the power of mathematics in a concrete way.
Absolutely. And to me, like, math is another language, right? And yes, if you don't know the language, you cannot appreciate its beauty.
True.
Right. And I think a lot of that comes from how math is taught to young kids. There needs to be reform in making math enjoyable. The way I got exposed to math, my grandfather was a math teacher, And, he would give me like puzzles. My grandmother always loved puzzles. So it was just a natural thing, it wasn't a chore to do. It wasn't just a homework to be done, right? To see that math as a fun thing, and then to see the math in action in terms of programming the machines
True.
that I talked about, that showed me the power of math and the beauty of math. And I think, we lose out so many talented people because in early childhood, we are not setting them up on a right foundation to view math as something fun.
Correct. So the next topics, it's one of the main of this theory. It's about trust technology. So from your great experience as an AI researcher and AI builder for the high efficiency of many businesses, how can we build transparent and trust technology?
Yeah, I think for any technology to be beneficial to humanity, we want to make sure there is accountability, transparency, there's trustworthy, right? And there is a dialogue among all the stakeholders, right? And that's what we need more of because in the past decade, AI indeed has been in the news a lot, it's making an impact, but so much of it has come from big tech, right? And that future is not sustainable unless we bring in all different stakeholders. Who are the people who are affected by the introduction of this AI technology, right? And it could be a broad range. And then the thing is, if there's a wrong decision, what is the fallback?
Yeah,
Is this catastrophic? Is this okay? I mean, is this an annoyance, right? And that's why we can't treat one size fits all. If take face recognition, it's very popular, everyone is aware, and it's in my Siri, it's in the airports, right now coming up, it's at Nvidia when I'm trying to get into the building. So we have that in so many different use cases, but they're not all equal, right? I mean, yes, on my
true.
phone in low lighting conditions, or especially now I'm wearing a mask, it doesn't recognize, it's an annoyance, right? I can go type the pin and it's okay. But on the other hand, if we put this in the hands of law enforcement and they're making decisions that could be life or death because if they mistakenly think somebody has committed criminal acts, and right, we've seen cases of right deaths happening with police engagement, especially with the African American community. So we have to be very mindful there that
True.
an error is can be a catastrophic event, and we need to treat it that way, right? We need to have then the transparency and accountability to ask, how well is it doing, not just at a high level accuracy, but on different groups. And that's where we've seen in the past few years increased awareness on the AI bias, right? The fact that so many of our data sets that we train these models on are extremely imbalanced when it comes to darker skin tones, especially the paucity of black people being in the data set. And that starts off a chain, right? And then on top of it, there's algorithmic bias. You're training the models to do well on the overall accuracy, which is not having many darker skin tones in the validation data set. So ultimately, you're bringing in all these biases that then when it's put in the real world, and there has been a history of uh, marginalization of the Black community, that further, right, amplifies those biases. And
Yeah,
I think that's
and
the
it's quite
biggest.
challenging as a topic. Like we talk about AI ethics, there's a lot of framework that exist, and a lot of organization are working on. But till now, as you said, we need to reinforce this part and not take it only or see it only on from the perspective of the people who are building those models. It's really, as you said very well, it's in many rooms, and we need to care about all these rooms, right?
Absolutely. And that's where we need government regulation ultimately, right? And
True.
of the right amount. I mean, there absolutely needs to be a balance between, you don't want innovation to be stifled. But at the same time, you cannot expect big tech to police on their own, right? That's not been successful in the past few years, and that's because they're not equipped to do that. And there is a huge conflict of interest. So we need to have outside independent agencies and though governmental involvement, and also local governments, across the world to be involved in terms of deciding how they want to use AI, how they want to bring technologies to their communities. They need to have a say. And I think that builds trust, because then they feel like they have the control to decide how they want to use the technology. And we also see that with social media, right?
Yeah.
This bias amplification that we've seen in the last few years in the name of free speech, it has been an extremely toxic environment. And now, with its reaching the Capitol Hill, suddenly everybody is saying that this is not okay. But as a woman online, as a person of color online, I mean, I've faced so much toxicity. It's just every day, it's relentless from day one, anonymous trolling. And that's because human communities are not built on anonymous free speech with no accountability, right? When you take any society, people's behaviors have consequences. It has consequences on the roles they occupy in that society. It has consequences in the culture the society sets. So that aspect is completely missing in social media, because you have this artificial cover of anonymity, which gets people to also be disconnected. I mean, not just that, that they're doing it in a way just to create havoc. They may believe that they're doing it for the good of society because they're so disconnected from other groups. And they are also in emotional turmoil because there's toxicity all around. So I think just saying that, there is free speech and speech can counter speech, people can just argue, it doesn't work that way, because we are not an equal society. Our voices are historically silenced and continue to be silenced. And we see a huge amplification of silencing on social media. It breaks my heart that so many women don't want to be online, and I don't blame them, because it is not a healthy environment.
And it's rare when you see like a big number of followers, and then you see really positive vibes in the messages and the speech. And this is how we, like in many episodes, we ask these questions about social media explicitly, because people are thinking that it's a freedom, but in the same time, I think you highlighted very well that the silence of the society for